And fifth, deployment. The name prescriptive is given because the model prescribes a set of activities, actions, tasks, quality assurance, and change the mechanism for every project. The framework activities, friends, the process model can be defined as a abstract representation of process. Friends, in this prescriptive process model, the process model can be defined as abstract representation of process. That is, in the software process model, it is also known as software development life cycle model. It also known as software development life cycle model. These models are called as prescriptive process models. Friends, we are learning today these prescriptive process models. They are called it because they are following some rules and for correct usage. In this model, various activities are carried out. Different activities we are carried out in the prescriptive process models. There are three types of prescriptive process models. Number one, the waterfall model, incremental process model, and RAD model. We learned these models in brief. First one, that is the waterfall model. Friends, the waterfall model is also called as linear sequential model or classic life cycle model. Each phase is fully completed before the beginning of the next phase. The phases used for the small projects. Friends, in the waterfall model, feedback is taken after each phase to ensure that the project is on the right path. And also, testing part starts only after the development is complete. This is nothing but the waterfall model. It is first process model to be introduced. It refers to as a linear sequential life cycle model. That means this waterfall models, we also called it as a linear sequential life cycle model. It is very simple to understand and use. In waterfall model, each phase must be completed before the next phase can begin, and there is no overlapping in the phases. Are you getting? Each phase must be completed before the next phase can begin, and there is no overlapping in the phases. The waterfall model is the earliest SDLC approach that was used for software development. The waterfall model illustrates the software development process in a linear sequential flow. That means that any phase in development process begins only if previous phase is completed. Friends, you are getting this design of the waterfall model. In that, there are 5 phases which are carried out in a design like this. First phase is communication, second planning, third modeling, fourth construction, and fifth deployment. The waterfall approach was first SDLC model, software development life cycle model, to be used widely in software engineering to ensure success of the project. Friends, this in the waterfall approach, whole process of software development is divided into separate phases. That means these 5 phases are separated. The outcome of one phase as input for next phase sequentially. This is most important point in the waterfall model. First, that is communication. Communication is nothing but requirement gathering. Friends, here in the first phase communication, that is requirement analysis, in that user or customer's requirement will be documented. That means gathering the requirements and make a document that what is user requirements, then plan for next implementation. This is first important and lengthy phase, in that all the requirements we have to gather from the customer or user or stakeholders and make a documentation on that requirements. And after completing first phase, that is communication phase, we are going to the next phase, that is planning phase. In that planning phase, we are taking input from first phase and make an estimation, scheduling or tracking on the software's plans. That means we have to estimate, schedule and tracking of the process. After that, we are going to the next phase, that is modeling, which is third phase, taking input of taking input of second phase and going to the third phase. We are going to the third phase only when we are completing second phase. In the modeling, there is a analysis and design process is carried out. System design, that means it defines hardware and software requirements of system architectures. In that design, that means in the design, what the requirements of hardware and software of the system architectures are carried out. And system develops a small programs into units using input of second phase. Finally, in the fourth construction phase, we are taking from third phase as input. We are coding and testing part is done in the fourth construction phase. In the testing, each unit and its functionality or integrated, all the units are integrated and tested. That means in the construction phase, that is in the testing phase, all the units are integrated and tested the success and failures. That means which part is successful and which is going to failure are tested in the fourth phase. Number 5, that is deployment. In the deployment phase, delivery, support and feedback is carried out. Once functional and non-functional testing is done, then your product is ready to deliver to the market. If any issue, when your product is ready to deliver, in the deployment phase, we are delivering it, supporting it, and taking the feedback from the customers. Finally, we are going to the maintenance phase. It is not compulsory. In that maintenance, if any issue comes from client, you have to add and release it. That means in the final maintenance phase, suppose there is any issues or comes from customer, we have to release it and add the reference to it. This is the complete waterfall model which is used in the software development process. This is the traditional models where we are using 5 phases. Completely, these 5 phases are having, these are depends on each other. Friends, here are the advantages in the waterfall model. Here are the advantages. That means simple and easy to understand, implement and use. Second advantage, all the requirements are known at the beginning of the project, hence it is easy to manage. Third, it avoids overlapping of phases because each phase is completed at once. Works for small projects. Prefer for those projects where the quality is more important than the cost. These are the simple advantages. And the disadvantage of waterfall model is that it is not good for complex and object-oriented project. The problems with this model are uncovered until the software testing. The amount of risk is high in the waterfall model. Here, the second model, that is incremental process model. Incremental process model, this is second model. In that incremental model, a process of software development where requirements divided into multiple stand-alone modules of software development cycle. In this model, each module goes through requirements, design, implementation, and testing phase. So, friends, the incremental process model combines the elements of waterfall model and they are applied in an iterative fashion. Are you getting? The first increment in this model is generally a core product. Each increment builds the product and submit it to the customer for any suggested modifications. The next increment incompletes on the customer's suggestion and add additional requirements in the previous increment. This process is repeated until the product is finished. For example, the word processing software is developed using the incremental model. Friends, this is nothing but the incremental process model. In that incremental process model, there are 5 phases. First, communication, planning, modeling, construction, deployment. These 5 phases are used this incremental process model, and there are many increments are occurs. Suppose we are taking these all 5 phases in the increment 1. In increment 1, take initial requirements from the customer. That means in increment 1, we are taking the initial requirements from the customer through communication phase, planning, modeling, construction, deployment. Through all these 5 phases, we are taking the input from the customer and deploy to the project. And all these 5 phases we are executing at the same time and repeat again and again in incremental format. That means all the 5 phases are executed at the same time and repeated again and again in incremental format up to the final destination of our product. These are the advantages of our incremental model. This model is flexible because the cost of development is low and initial product delivery is faster. It is easier to test and debug during the smaller iteration. The working software generates quickly and early during the software life cycle. The customers can respond to its functionalities after every increment. Next, disadvantage of this incremental model. The cost of the final product may cross the cost estimated initially. This model requires a very clear and complete planning. The planning of design is required before the whole system is broken into small increments. The demands of customer for the additional functionalities after every increment causes problem during the system architecture. Third one, that is a RAD model. Friends, RAD is a rapid application development model. RAD is rapid application development model. Software product is developed in a short period of time. The initial activities start with communication between customer and developer. Planning depends upon the initial requirements, and then the requirements are divided into groups. Planning is more important to work together on different modules. The RAD model consists of following phases. Friends, this is nothing but the RAD models. In that, there are many phases. First one, business modeling, data modeling, process modeling, application generation, testing, and turnover. This is term 1. Here, all the phases are carried out like the waterfall model. That means in the first phase, when we are completing first business modeling, in the term first phase, after completing business modeling, we are going to the next phase, that is data modeling.